Wow, week 10. It is amazing how fast the football season can just fly by. And the same thing is happening right here on the weekly slant for Sports Spectrum. Week 10, we are upon it, and we have a great guest coming up for you tonight. And I'm excited to share more about the conversation that we have for you. But first, just thrilling to be here and to continue to have these conversations about football and faith with you and sharing them with Jason Romano and Brock Heward, who it was really fun to see him come back together with his teammate from his Seattle Seahawks days and Matt Hasselbeck last week. So we are presented now by Compassion International, and I know that it is near and dear to Brock's heart. It is an organization that I have just been so impressed by their work as I have learned more and more about compassion. And we're thrilled to be here because of them this week and their campaign to fill the stadium. It is truly a special campaign. It is one that you can get involved with just by heading to your phone, your computer. It's super easy. Before I tell you more about how to do it, I do want to let you see exactly what it means to be a part of Fill the Stadium. Check it out.
In 2020, COVID-19 hit the world where it hurts most. Already vulnerable children and their families were left in even greater need.
The storm is upon us.
The coronavirus. The world is on the brink of a hunger pandemic, pushed millions into starvation.
Not on our watch.
Some professional athletes and coaches are teaming up.
We partnered up with Compassion International
to raise enough money for 70,000 kids.
I'm Case Keenum.
I'm Alyssa Nair.
My name's Carson Palmer.
I'm Billy Jess.
I'm Jacob Slavin.
I'm Maggie Myers.
I'm Dakota Dozier.
I'm Jason McCourty.
I'm Devin McCourty.
I'm Elizabeth Eddy.
And I'm teaming up.
I'm teaming up.
I'm teaming up.
And we're teaming up.
We teamed up because we know this is a stadium that cannot remain empty. Let's go.
So I mentioned it's near and dear to Brock Heward's heart, and you just heard his voice there taking you through what this Fill the Stadium campaign means. And we're so close to finishing this off. And what a great gift to give as we move into the holiday season here, to be a sponsor, to be someone who is part of contributing to taking a child out of poverty and helping them to find their way to having just the necessities of life, and to be able to share your love for Jesus with a child and maybe even introduce that child to the Lord within his or her own life. Fillthestadium.com. You just have to head there. As I said, the goal is 70,000. That's the average capacity of an NFL stadium. And it's a click of the mouse. It can get you there to make an impact. And this is something that has made a direct impact, not only on my guest tonight's life, but really his whole family. And he's going to share that story with us coming up here. The 2003 first pick of the NFL draft, played 15 years in the NFL, and really it was a career for him in the National Football League that had a lot of highs and lows because he dealt with injuries a lot. I'm of course speaking about Carson Palmer, and his own journey has continued. His love of football took a little bit for him to find again once he stepped away from the game, and that's something that we caught up about. I look forward to sharing this conversation with you. Here's Carson Palmer. Well, Carson, it's so great to have you on here with us, the Weekly Slant. Let me just start with this, because you've been out of the NFL for a couple of years now. So what is football season like for you when you're not in the throes of trying to get ready for a game every Sunday?
Yeah, it's been transitional experience for me, because my first couple of years out, I think I retired in 2017 or 18. And so the first couple of years, I didn't want to watch it. I wasn't, I'd watch a little bit of Monday Night Football, maybe some Sunday Night Football. And I had some obligations media-wise to know what was going on and to follow it. And it was a very obligatory following. I wasn't enjoying watching it. I missed it. I missed the games. And I didn't miss anything else, but I missed the games. And so I just didn't catch myself wanting to watch on Sundays, but I kind of had to watch because on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I was going to be asked a bunch of questions. And so I needed to know my stuff. And so It's funny. I went through this transition where I wasn't into it. Every time I turned a game on, I kind of like, I guess I got kind of sad or kind of bummed and depressed because I missed it. And then as the years have gone on, I'm all in. I can't wait for Sundays. I got to see like what kid events we have going on and then what games I can watch in between dropping somebody off at soccer and dropping somebody off at ski practice, like, whatever that is. And so I'm all in now. I'm a fan. I love it. I can't wait. I watched the game last night. I couldn't wait for Monday Night Football to start. Like, my kids are into it now. And they're also, when I was playing, they would go to games, but they were, from anywhere from babies to 4 or 5 years old. And now my oldest, I have twins that are 12, and I coach my son's team, and he loves it and wants to watch every game. And it's almost to the point now where when I'm watching it, I'm like, dude, stop asking so many questions. I'm trying to watch the game. But he just wants to, he's like, why? The game last night, I don't know if you watched the Monday night game between the Steelers and, gosh, I'm blanking on who they're playing, Chicago.
And the Bears,
there was a play on a punt where the Steelers threw one of the other players into the ball. And my kids are like, well, why isn't that a fumble? Why doesn't that count? Well, you can't physically. So I'm having to explain these rules that even now I'm like, wait a minute, should that be technically a fumble? And, so I'm going back through, but I'm like, shh. I'm trying to watch the game. And so I'm all in. I love it. I'm a fan. At the end of the day, I'm a fan. I love watching the Cardinals play. I love watching individual players that were either ex-teammates or guys I competed against. So I've gone through this transition of just really not wanting anything to do with it because I missed it. And now I don't miss it at all. And I love watching it. And I can't wait for Thursday night. I can't wait for all day Sunday and Monday night. And so I'm all in and I'm a fan.
I love it. It's so funny. It's like it takes a while for, I think, ourselves to kind of catch up to our new life or the new chapter in our life sometimes. And that's what it sounds like when you talk about that transition. And my house, by the way, is just like your house because my oldest is 10 and he is all in as well. And it's constant, right? Like, wait, Mom, what about this? And did you see this? And it's relentless. And sometimes I'm like, wait, I just can, like, I want to hear what the replay says or whatever.
Well, and it's so also funny. Like, I catch myself too, I didn't watch football with my kids because I was working. I was either at the stadium or at the hotel the night before getting ready to play. And then Monday night, my kids were young enough where they were in bed early and I was studying and getting ready for the next game.
Yeah.
And now that I'm in this fan educator mode, man, it's a difficult game to explain. I understand why it's so focused in this country and people know the game in this country and it's so difficult. I remember going over to London and playing in London and being in the stadium where you could just tell fans didn't know what was going on. They didn't understand the rules. They were cheering at the wrong times. And now that I'm having to explain it to, my 12-year-olds, my 10-year-old, my 5-year-old, it's hard to explain. And there's a lot of really difficult rules that don't quite make sense. My son asked me last night, what's encroachment? I was like, well, it's offsides. Well, why don't they just call it offsides? And I was like, I don't know why they don't just call it offsides. I don't know why it's called. But so I'm just like going through all this now where I've never really had to explain it because my wife grew up around the game and knew it from watching me play. And I'm having to explain these intricate rules. It's a tough game. It's a tough game if you're a foreigner or you're a young person that doesn't quite understand it yet. There's a lot of little intricacies, and I didn't realize just how intricate the game was until, after I got done playing for my entire life and 15 years in the NFL, I'm just now realizing, man, this game's tough to describe and it's tough to explain.
And some of them aren't even intricacies, right? Like, how many seasons have we had where it's like, what's a catch? I mean, so some of it is just like the game itself can be, so simple and yet so complicated at the same time.
Exactly.
Let's talk a little bit about Arizona because I know you've said, that the Cardinals was the last jersey that you wore, so your kids are Cardinals fans. They are off to a tremendous start this season. So what has that been like at your house?
They're all Cardinal fans because I played there, but each kid, like my oldest daughter loves the Steelers.
They all find their own, right?
They all find their own. My son loves Aaron Rodgers. My other son loves Baker Mayfield. So it's just like, we're not all Cardinal fans. until the Cardinals are playing, and then everybody's on the Cardinal bandwagon, especially when they were undefeated.
Sure.
But it's been fun to watch. I mean, I was putting so much stock in how important Kyler Murray was to that team and just how good he was. And then you watch Colt McCoy play last week, and it looked like the exact same team. They looked as explosive. They were great on third down. They were great in the red zone. They played really good defense. So it just goes to show you how well that team is built and how well that team is constructed from the top down, from the backup quarterback to the backup swing tackle. So they've had some injuries in the secondary. They've had guys rotating in. They're still not, giving up 30 and 40 points a game. They're still holding teams. They're still rushing the passer. They have 2 great edge rushers. They have great leadership on the interior defensive line. I mean, this is just a really, really well-built, well-constructed team.
Yeah, fun to watch. I guess I also wonder, because you're seeing them have success this season, and then you saw your former coach, Bruce Arians, have the greatest success you can have in the National Football League and, take home a Super Bowl trophy last season in Tampa Bay. So what was that like for you?
Well, I mean, it was fun to watch Brady do and continue to do what he's done his entire career, which is just find a way to get to the Super Bowl. Whether it's at home playing at Gillette in New England and having that home field dominance they had seemingly in the AFC for so long. It seems like we watched them play in the AFC Championship games so many times. And then to see him last year go on the road and win on the road consistently. And then oddly enough, end up playing, at home in the Super Bowl, dressing in his own locker from the regular season. It was just kind of weird, but really fun to watch. I mean, talk about a well-built team. That team is explosive on offense. The offensive line is really, really good. Jason Light, who I know from my Cardinal days, he was the assistant GM to Steve Keim when I was in Arizona. And bringing in Bruce and bringing in Brady and re-signing Leonard Fournette, and just some of the little moves, drafting Tristan Wilfs from Iowa a couple years back that has been, I think, a stalwart at right tackle. I mean, I think he's come in and played since he was drafted and played at a high level. So it's just another really well-built team, obviously very well coached with a guy like Bruce. But it was a lot of fun to watch them go on a run last year.
Quarterback to quarterback, can you just talk about what it's like to see Brady have the career that he's had as someone who's played that position and been there for the 15 years that you were a quarterback in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, it's astonishing. I mean, he's pretty much been to the Super Bowl every other. He hasn't won them all, but to get to the Super Bowl almost every other year of your career, that doesn't make sense. It's unfathomable to do what he's doing at his age. And I'm younger, and I still think and I wasn't even playing 3 years ago, and I still think if I was playing 3 years ago, how much it would hurt and how uncomfortable it would be. And just as you get to 36, 37 in the NFL, you just start to feel all those hits. They all start to really add up, and you can't get rid of the soreness and the pain as quick as you did when you were 25. Just so when I'm sitting there watching him play at 43 or 42 or whatever, I don't even know where he's at anymore. But it's mind-blowing. I can't wrap my mind around it.
Yeah. So as you know, the weekly Slant here on Sports Spectrum is a football and a faith show, and we really like to delve the two in the conversation. And I wonder, from a career perspective, how did your faith help you throughout the course of your football career?
Well, I had some peaks and valleys throughout my career. I was on a really good football team, and we beat just about everybody, and we were playing at home in the playoffs, and boom, I blew my knee out. And the team that, at the first play of the game in 2009, 2008, whenever that was. And so, to sit home and only play one play in the playoffs and then watch the team that we handily beat in the regular season that we lost to in the playoffs, which was the Pittsburgh Steelers, go on and win a Super Bowl was tough. I was in Arizona. We were 9-1, and boom, I blew my knee out again. And we were in a really good position to have the number 1 seed in the NFC and home field advantage, which if you have home field in Arizona, that is a very dominant position to put yourself in. so there's been highs and there's been lows. Demanding a trade and going through what I went through, the smear campaign, from the media, and just the valley that was, the pit that was. I just was always, I always knew God was in control, and there was so many negative connotations about blowing your knee out and demanding a trade, and the smear campaign, all these different things that they really didn't affect me that much. I just knew that God was in control, and this was all part of the plan. And you get asked questions. You're 9-1. It's the best team you've ever been on. You fought your whole career to get here, and how difficult is this? And I just knew it was part of God's plan. I knew that was not the path for me, was to win a Super Bowl that year that we were 9-1 and my knee blew out. It was not the path that God had for me. In that home playoff game against the Steelers where my knee got hit and I blew my knee out. And, you get all the questions, that was such a great opportunity, blah, 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 blah. And it just wasn't, it wasn't the negative in my head that it was in so many other people's heads, just because I knew that wasn't God's path for me. I knew He was in control, and whatever He had planned for me, He gave me the ability to overcome it, and I did. And so, that's where they intervene. Is I just always knew that God had a plan for me, and it wasn't my plan. It wasn't what I wanted for myself or what I thought was in the cards for me. It was all part of His plan. I just had belief and trust and faith in that.
What do you attribute that to? Just that not having that doubt and not letting it creep in and overwhelm you?
Faith.
Was it your upbringing? Is it,
Yeah, I grew up going to church and grew up in the church. And so my mom always, when I was a kid, dragging us to church, getting our suit and tie on, early Sunday mornings. And I developed and learned who God was, and developed faith in my faith, and believing and knowing that, man, this seems like it stinks, and going through another knee operation, starting all over again. Like, it was a great challenge. It wasn't a huge negative. It was an obstacle to overcome, and little things like the doctor in my first surgery came out and said, the knee surgery went great, but the injury was so bad, he won't be able to play again. And so I just had like little doubters and little hurdles to get over, and I just never flinched. I never thought, woe is me. I never faith is what it is. You have faith that God's got everything in control. You have faith in your ability that doctor's wrong, that professional in that in that world, he may be a PhD, but he doesn't know me, and he doesn't know that God's got my back, and God's got me through this. And so a lot of it was my upbringing, and just continuing from my upbringing of elementary school, high school, college, professional careers, just growing in my relationship with God, and knowing that He had me, having faith in my own faith, and faith in myself when I was being doubted. So it definitely started at a young age, and it's something that just continued to grow, and my relationship with God has continued to grow every year of my life.
It's an assurance about what you cannot see, and belief in continuing to just move forward and trust the path that God has put before you. And for you, Carson, part of that path has been getting involved with Compassion International and their Fill the Stadium campaign, and so close, right, to the 70,000 seats filled as part of that campaign to stomp out, poverty and hunger for children. So can you just tell me about why that is on your heart and why you wanted to get involved with the campaign?
Yeah, so back in 2019, our kids were old enough that we could finally travel. And you having kids, you know how difficult it is getting on flights with babies and crying kids and bottles. And so
all of the above.
All of the above. And so we finally got, our youngest was 4, which he was starting to get easier to travel with. And so we had talked about doing a family mission trip. And so Compassion is a huge corporation, and they do amazing things all over the world. So I got put in touch with a couple individuals from Compassion. I had reached out to some friends that had older kids that I knew had gone on different trips and exposed their kids to different parts of the world, and reaching out and trying to help other families and impoverished, regions of the world. And so I reached out to those guys. I was put in contact with Ken McKinley, who we talked about earlier. And so we had everything dialed in. We were getting ready to, book flights and talked about we were going to go here and serve, and here and serve, and fly to here, and then, spread the word of God, but also just experience and have our kids experience and see if maybe they had a heart for helping others. And after being in situations where we were talking about going, kids don't have anything, let alone parents, food, shelter, medical, school, or even ever heard of the Bible or Jesus Christ. So we wanted to expose our kids to that, to see where their heart was. Maybe that was something that, touched them, and then they could continue to develop however their relationship was going to be with other impoverished countries, and just getting involved. And so obviously COVID happens, everything gets shut down, and I was, we had this trip was getting lined up, and then I had talked to a couple guys that Steve Stenstrom, who I'm sure is, I believe, the president or CEO of Professional Athletes Outreach, Ken McKinley, who works for Compassion. And so boots on the ground kind of guys, been there, seen it, know how it works. And we were having conversations like, COVID thing is really bad, obviously, but it's really, really going to be bad in a lot of these countries, these third world countries, where these people are forgotten about. And so we had just started talking about, how Compassion worked was through donations from things like concerts, charity events, football, all these things that were canceled, that were monetary drivers to raise money to support these kids and these people around the world, and they were just shut down. So these kids were being forgotten about. Stadiums at the time were completely empty. Players were playing on the field, but nobody was sitting in the stadium. And so I don't know who exactly it was. I'm assuming it was Steve came up with this idea. Well, all these kids that have not been sponsored are going to be forgotten about, and who knows what happens to these kids. So what if we took the money that Americans were spending, like a 4-person family was taking their family to a game and paying for parking to go see the Oakland Raiders play the Arizona Cardinals. Hot dogs, jerseys, ticket sales, parking pass, soda, whatever that is, that money that these families aren't able to spend on their own families, maybe they can spend them on another. And so came up with this concept of filling the stadium with 70,000 kids that were not going to get sponsored at, American concert venues, church Sundays, all these things that were being canceled, charity dinners, all these things that were raising funds to support these kids were extinct because of COVID. Not extinct, but gone for the foreseeable future. So the idea came up, the fill the stadium concept came up, where the money you were spending to take your family to the game could be spent to help a kid survive for an entire year. By one seat in the stadium, you're helping a child that doesn't have anything, water, food, medical attention, learning the gospel, learning what the Bible is, who Jesus Christ is. And so this thing has been a while in the making. It's been a lot of work. There's been a lot of folks that spent a lot of time, and we're so close. And you can log on at fillthestadium.com. You can go on Compassion's website. You can go on my Instagram page, at Carson Palmer 3. You can learn, you can donate right there. It's an easy, simple process. You don't have to get online and spend 30 minutes trying to figure it out. It's a really simple process. The money goes directly to these children, spending money on the necessities, food, shelter, clothing, medical attention, and also spreading the word of God. So it's a great way, as we're coming up on this holiday season, to close out this venture of filling this stadium of 70,000 seats, spending some money on others, and spending money to, just like I just said, the necessities of survival in some of these countries that are as impoverished, more impoverished than you can imagine. So it's a great cause. We're really close. We need a couple more folks to step up and finish filling the stadium.
I imagine that even though you didn't get that mission trip that you had originally planned, this exercise of being part of Fill the Stadium has made for some really special conversations with your own kids, to talk about what you're trying to do for these other kids who, like you said, just don't have the bare necessities.
Well, it's been super fun too for our kids because you can log on to Compassion and directly sponsor children on the website, and it's been really fun. Like we had talked about over a year ago, everybody can, or each kid can pick a couple kids, and so 2 became 4, and 4 became 6, and picking children off of, my girls at first wanted to adopt girls, my boys wanted to, my oldest wanted to adopt somebody that had the same birthday, so we scoured the website and found a kid that was born on the same day. So it's been fun, and then you can keep up dialogue. And we've had videos sent to us from the children we sponsored about the impact that our small donation has made on their lives. You can create relationships via pen pal. So it's a really fun thing to do for kids, and especially the young ones. My 5-year-old just got the brain, swirling, and the questions and conversations that have come up, and just the knowledge. I mean, my kids couldn't fathom at first that other kids don't have any parents. They don't have a place to sleep. They wear the same clothes every day. They walk 4 or 5 miles to bring water back to wherever their villages are. They don't eat for days on end. They've never seen doctors. They don't go to the dentist. They don't, you know what I mean? Like all these things that come up that are so normal in our world here, in our little bubble. So it's been eye-opening, and it's been a great lesson. And, we've seen our kids' hearts grow through this process. And I would encourage other families that maybe, their kids haven't seen what the other side of the planet looks like. And this is a great glimpse into how difficult life is in a lot of places, and how scary life can be in a lot of places. And when your kid's the right age, it can create a lot of great conversations, and you can see, there's nothing more pure than a child's heart, and to see that also from an adult's viewpoint is really special to see, because you can forget how numb we are to having the things that we have, and how numb we are to the people on the other side of the planet that don't have anything that we have. And so it's a great conversation starter around the dinner table. It's a great thing to pray about as a family. I just would really encourage, even if you don't have the money right now to donate, just go on and show your kids. It can be eye-opening for a lot of kids, and it's a great, like I said, conversation starter, and it's been really great for our family, and great for the families that we've been able to have a small impact on.
Yeah, all of a sudden that like pinprick that you can put on a map has a face on it, and there's a story behind it. And I don't care how old you are or what you have or don't have. When you put a face on something, it completely changes the way you view not only what someone doesn't have, but what you do have. And I think it brings gratitude, which is just something that's so significant for all of us. Before I let you go, Carson, I just want to ask, you've time with the family now, time with your kids, and I can tell that's near and dear to you, just by the way you speak of it. How do you feel like the Lord is leading you right now in your life, and with your family, and what your continued aspirations are?
Yeah, I mean, aspiration wise, we just want our kids to know and love Jesus, and know and love others that don't know him, and spread the word. But yeah, I mean, I've got 4 little ones, chasing them around, and coaching football, and trying to expand our football program here. I live kind of in the middle of nowhere in Idaho, so working on that. But really just, it's important. We've got a couple kids that will go to youth group, a couple kids that are nervous to leave mom and dad's side on Sunday mornings or whatever it is. But our aspiration is just that our kids know and love Jesus, and aren't ashamed about it, and are up front, and not afraid to talk about him to others that don't know him or don't want to know him. So yeah, I mean, that's what our focus is right now, running around chasing them. I've got a couple different things going work-wise, a couple different ventures like Fill the Stadium and different charities. But what's important to our family is having a personal relationship with Christ. And you're not too young, you're not obviously not too old. And our 5-year-old, we're working on that, and talking to Jesus every day, and all of that. And that's been a big focus on where we're at right now as a family.
Well, more is caught than taught, and you stand and tell everybody about your love for Jesus, and I know that that has an impact on the kids when they can look at mom, they can look at dad, and they can see that they're willing to be out front and vocal about it, and their love for Jesus. And that makes, I think, more of an impact than anything else, because they model what they see, I
Very
mean,
true.
don't we all know that as parents? So, look, we really appreciate your time, Carson. Thanks for being with us, and continued blessings on you and your family.
You as well, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It was really fun to catch up with Carson Palmer, and I really enjoyed just how Fill the Stadium has impacted his own life, and how, the original intent to go on this mission trip with his children and his wife, and to show them what these other children just do not have in other parts of the world, morphed into what has become, oh, let's sponsor this child through Compassion International, and let's be a part of this Fill the Stadium campaign. And I just think it mimics that reality that what we think is going to unfold might unfold very differently in God's plan. And so often we see that in our own lives. And I really think that listening to Carson talk about it is just a good reminder for all of us as we continue to move along our own journeys, and have them be different than we sometimes think they're going to be, because that is just the way it can work. And we're so grateful to Compassion International for being a part of the Sports Spectrum Weekly Slant, and to bring this week to you. And we really encourage you to go to fillthestadium.com, be a part of this great mission to help release children from poverty. What an easy way to do it, and what a great gift to give to yourself or your family, or in somebody's name who you love this holiday season. So I encourage you to do it, fillthestadium.com. Get involved with Compassion International. It's a wonderful organization, and I'm thrilled to just continue to be part of Sports Spectrum's Weekly Slant, and to continue to be a little part of what Compassion International does, because they're continuing to reach thousands upon thousands, millions upon millions of children. And to just be a small part of that is really meaningful to me as we continue on with Sports Spectrum's Weekly Slant, and look forward to seeing you next time.